Back again with another video. Today I wanted to bring you along on a shoot to actually show you how I capture my photos. We're out here and today I'm going to be shooting with my Nikon D600. I got the 70-200 on right now, and I also brought my circular polarizer lens. So let's get started and I'll walk you through the steps, kind of what I look for, give you some commentary as I shoot, and hopefully the tips will help you. So the first thing I want to show you is just how far away we are with the 200mm lens. So we're zoomed all the way out to 200mm. And as you can see, we're a pretty good ways back from the car. So let's get ready to take our first shot. I'm always shooting at f2.8. The big reason to shoot at 200mm is to really compress the background and throw it out of focus. So what I want to do is I have the camera in manual mode. I have ISO all the way down at 100 ISO. And right now, 2 stops under is at 1/4000th of a second at f2.8. I'm focusing in on the headlight because that's the closest thing to me. And I'm going to take my first shot. For an HDR bracket, I'm going to go over 3 clicks. And I can double check in my meter, and then that's 1 stop under. I can go 3 more, and I know that that's going to be even, so that's 1/1000th of a second at f2.8 still. And then I can click it 3 more times. That's 1 over, and then 3 more times should be 2 over. And I can look at my image on the back of the camera. I think because it's so bright out here, the wheels have really gone dark because it's reading a lot of the silver on the car. So I'm actually going to go 2 more over, and then maybe just to play it safe, 2 more. That's going to give me some room to be able to pull the wheels up if I need it. I'm going to have a brighter exposure where there's going to be more detail in those shadows. So that's kind of the first shot, first setup. I'll go to the images now, show you what we got. All right, everyone, so we're back at the computer. We're gonna retouch our first set of shots here. I use Lightroom for cataloging all my photos. So basically what you do is when you get into Lightroom, first you want to offload your card and upload those files to wherever they're permanently gonna live. From there, you come over here to import photos and videos. It'll take you to this document. I have an external drive where I keep all of my files. So, and I name them with the date. So this is the set that we just shot. So I'd click on that, and then over here I'd click import. It's not allowing me to do that because I've already uploaded it, but essentially that's what you do. You'd click here, click import. It would bring all of those files, and then it'll bring into something that looks like this. So if we go to that set of photos that we shot, which I already flagged, so here is our 2 under, our 1 under, our even, 1 over, 2 over. As you can see, the composition, I shot this more with Instagram in the mindset of Instagram. If you think about the way it's set up, Instagram really favors photos that are more square composed, and also with the subject more front and center. So that's what I did here. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep all of them. We're going to select the first one, select the last one. We're going to come here to merge and click HDR. So now that that's processed, we're going to go ahead and click merge. A helpful suggestion that you can do is once you process your HDR photos, if you want to collapse these just to clean up your timeline, you can right click and you can put group into stack, and it will take that set of photos. You'll get this option right here where it's going to tell you that there's 5 photos in that stack, but it just helps to clean up your photo strip down here. So now that's processed. If we go down to our last photo, you can see we have our image here. You can see what the HDR photo has done for us. We've gotten really good detail in the wheels, and we still kept detail in the sky. So we have our nice clouds. Everything's pretty evenly balanced, and that's really what HDR is going to give you. It's going to give you that dynamic range between the shadows and the highlights. So the next thing I do, I have this photo. I want to process it further. I'm happy with the way everything looks. So I'll go over to the develop module. And now here's where I do my initial edit of the photo. I usually start from the top down. So here, I think we can make the sky a little bit more dramatic. So we're going to pull out a graduated filter. Here's a good tip. If you have settings left over from the last time you used it, if you double click this effect, it'll zero all of those out, and then you can start from scratch. So let's make the sky a little bit more blue. We have a little bit of sunset over here, so let's put the red up just a little bit. It'll help that. And then I think let's bring down the exposure just a little. And then let's do something similar on the bottom. So again, we don't want that cast that we had there, so let's just go ahead and double click the effect. We'll get rid of that. Let's bring the exposure down just a little bit. It's going to help draw our eyes into the center of the frame with the car. The next thing we should do is come over here. Let's grab our radial gradient tool, and let's put something right in the middle, just over the car, and maybe we'll bump the exposure just a little bit. Maybe bring the shadows up a little bit. I like the clarity there, and I actually like a little bit of added sharpness. So overall, I mean, the photo looks pretty good. I think overall we can add a little bit more vibrance. I like my colors to pop a little bit. You can see from the HDR here, when it auto-tones the image, it brings the highlights almost all the way down. It brings the shadows almost all the way up. And it messes with the whites and blacks. I usually leave that there. I find that it does a pretty good job. If you want to add a little bit of clarity to the overall image, you can do that there. Cars usually look pretty good with a little bit of extra clarity. Just be careful not to go too overboard. Working our way down, you can bump up your sharpening a little bit. A good tip here is if you go to masking, click the option button, and then pull that over. It'll show you what it's sharpening. So you really just want to sharpen the edges. You don't really want to sharpen the textures. So you can see our cars nice and sharp. If you have any noise, which we're pretty good, you could bump this up a little bit. And if you have really bad lens vignetting or distortion or anything like that, you can come in here and enable the lens profile. I actually like the distortion and the vignetting that I get with this lens, so I'm going to keep that. From there, I mean, that's pretty good for a base image. And if it wasn't for this stuff, I would probably call this image done. I think it's a pretty solid image. It's exposed nicely. It has good tones. But let's go into Photoshop and do a couple tweaks to this. So now that we're in Photoshop, let's go ahead and duplicate this layer. And I think we can get away with cheating here. So if we just get our selection tool, draw a selection over this portion of the image. Let's hit Command J to put it on its new layer. You can see what we did. We basically just copied that piece. We'll then hit Command T to go into free transform mode. And then let's flip this horizontal. So what this is going to allow us to do is we'll just bring this piece over here. And really what we want, we have our black layer mask, we have our brush tool, our black layer, so we want to paint in white to expose what's beneath. So we are going to make it a little bit bigger, and we're just going to paint over this section right here. See if we can get this to blend in and get rid of all of this junk over here. And it doesn't appear as though it's going to be as easy as I thought because our car comes over a little bit further. But that is okay. X. So we're going to go back with our X. We're going to see if there's some kind of happy medium in here that we can get. Still a little bit of the car in here, so we're going to go back. I think we're pretty good there. I mean, that looks natural, like the wall could have jogged up a little bit. The clouds look semi-random. Maybe we'll go back and retouch that so it doesn't look 100%. So right now, let's say we're gonna commit to this. Actually, let me check this line here. All right, so let's commit to this. So Command, Option, Shift, and E to make a stamp visible layer above. Now we're going to get our clone stamp tool. We're going to go in and get rid of this. So what we're doing is we're just hitting our Alt key to select the area, and then we're going to paint over, cloning that texture over. And the big thing here is you just want to make sure you don't have any kind of repeating patterns. So let's go up here and let's try to get rid of a little bit of this. So it just helps it look like it's not a mirror copy. And if you want to, another thing that sometimes helps, if you take your patch tool, it just helps to get rid of some of those repeating patterns that you see. And maybe you can do the same thing in here. And again, if you didn't watch me do this, you probably wouldn't know that anything happened back there. But if we turn off these layers, I mean, it made a pretty big difference. It helped clean all of that stuff up. And then maybe in here, let's go through and maybe we'll clone this bush over some. And that's terrible. Get rid of that tree. Just to help make it look a little bit different. All right, so now that we have that cleaned up, we're going to go into Knit Color Effects Pro. The car is a little discolored from the sky, and this is a simple, easy way to clean that up. So what I do is just click here and then click on here, and you can see that it got rid of that color cast. Silver is a tough color because it really reflects the sky. I'd imagine that you can do that on white cars too. I'd imagine it would work pretty well. You'd have to experiment with your car to see if you get that color cast and if that helps it. But this is kind of a must thing for me with a silver car. And it's kind of your preference if you mask out the background or you leave it. I think all that blue that we put in the sky, it kind of negates that and gets rid of it. So I think what we'll do is we'll put a mask on that, put a black mask, get our brush. Let's select white because it's a black mask. And then we'll just paint the car. It just helps to warm up the car. And I kind of liked what it did to the background here. Made it look like some more sunlight was coming through. So I think that is just about it. If you want, here's another touch that you can do. So the sun's coming in from this angle. What you could do is get your gradient filter here. Click on this second one, which is a radial gradient. And then go in here with your eyedropper tool. If you hit Option, it'll allow you to select. And you can pick a color. It's in there, kind of a warmer color. Let's go up to yellow. Let's get something like that. Maybe bring it down a little bit. If you just pull this out, you can get that kind of nice little sunburst. You change that to screen. It'll allow it to come through a little bit. Again, we'll put a mask on that. We'll leave this one white. We'll grab our brush tool, paint in black, and we'll paint it off some of this area. And then maybe lower the opacity just a little bit. That just gives a nice little hit of atmosphere, like the sun shining in. If you like it or don't. But that's pretty much the final shot. So let's go ahead and hit Command S to save it. We'll go back over to Lightroom and we'll check out the before and after. So here's our 2 under, our 1 under, our even, 1 over, and 2 over. Here was our adjustment straight out of Lightroom. And then here's our final shot. So let's go back, switch up the angles, and we'll take another shot, and then we'll come back and process it. All right, so here we are in the back of the car. You can see how the car is angled. I really like to show off kind of the angles of the car. So the idea here is you have the back of the car. It's almost at a 45-degree angle. So both of those angles are coming towards us and meeting us right in the middle. We still have good view of the front wheel. We have a clear view of the back wheel. You can also notice that the car's parked up on a hill a little bit. That's going to give us some depth going into the car from the asphalt. And then we also have the sky in the background, and then you can see the leading lines of the street are pointing you into the car. So these are things that I look for when I set up and I take the photo. So let's do a series of HDR brackets here. Same thing as last time. We'll go through. We'll shoot 2 under, 1 under, even, 2 over, and 1 over. Let's see where we're at. So we're losing light pretty quickly. So we're at 1/400th of a second for our -2 exposure. Again, we're going to click 3. That puts us at 1/200th. 3 more, 1/100th. 3 more, 1/50th. And 3 more, 1/25th. Still at 2.8, still at ISO 100. All right, so we're back in Lightroom again. This is our second shot. So again, we have our 2 under, our 1 under, our even, 1 over, and 2 over. So we're going to select all of those. We're going to photo merge into HDR. All right, so here's our shot. And I think we're going to pretty much do the same thing that we did to that other shot. So we're going to start with our linear gradient tool. I think we're going to bring the blues up a little bit, bring the exposure down some, bring the opacity. Actually, here, let's do this. Bring the blues down, bring the magentas up just slightly, bring the exposure down a little. Then we'll do the same thing on the bottom that we did. So essentially we're going to just bring the darkness down a little bit with the exposure. Again, we just want to draw our eye into the middle. Now I get some questions at what's the best f-stop to shoot your photos at for automotive. I find that 2.8 works pretty good for me. What I'm really looking for is this out of focus area. I like how that makes the car pop off the background. And I mean, to be honest with you, spend the money for a 2.8 lens because you want to shoot at 2.8. So I always shoot as low as the lens will allow me to. And you still have plenty of sharpness between the back wheel and the front wheel because relative to the background, these are still pretty close together. My focus point was right here in between the bumper and the back wheel. So still plenty of sharpness between here and here. But that background really goes out of focus, which is what I'm personally looking for. So I think we'll do the same thing. Let's hit the car with a little bit. And we're pretty much the same thing that we had before. We brought a little bit of yellow in to help fight that blue. Brought the clarity and sharpness up just a little bit. And then we'll go down, same thing with sharpening. We'll increase the sharpening a little bit. Again, we're going to hit that option key, slide it over so we can see what we're sharpening. So we're just sharpening the edges. We'll bump the clarity just a little bit. Not a ton. You don't want it, I mean, unless this is the look that you're going for. I like what it does to the car. I don't like what it does to the background. It really muddies all those colors, and I like the way the background looks a little bit better. So I think if you want to pump some clarity into the car itself, you should do that in the radial gradient tool, and you can pop that gradient without it affecting the background as much. So I think that's good for that. Let's go back over to Photoshop. So now that we're back in Photoshop, I think we're going to do the exact same thing that we did on the other photo. We want to get rid of this distracting area over here. So essentially what we're going to do is basically the exact same thing. We'll make a copy of the background. We'll use our selection tool, Command J to make a copy, Command T for free transform. We're going to right click, flip horizontal, use our shift key, slide that straight over to the edge, hit enter to apply the transformation. We're going to hit option, click the layer mask button so it makes a black layer mask. We're going to get our brush tool. We're going to paint in white, so we're going to hit X to change colors to white. And then we're just going to brush in here and get rid of all of this stuff. We're just bringing that background layer in. Make our brush a little bit smaller and erase out some of this so we have that nice hard line from the concrete. We can go in here a little bit closer. It's a little bit muddy. I'll just paint that in. Got a little bit too close. Go back, paint that out. I think we're good with the way that looks. So we'll hit Command Option Shift E to make a stamp visible layer. And then I think for these clouds, let's get our lasso tool. Maybe we'll just get rid of that so it doesn't look as similar. And then if we want, another thing we can do is maybe we'll clone this right here. And we'll just reshape that tree a little bit, just to get rid of that cactus. And then maybe we'll take some of this stuff and put something right in here. Just to give it a little bit of randomness. The goal is just to keep the two sides. No one would ever notice, really. If you didn't see me do that, I don't think you'd notice that those two were there. So it's just adding a little bit of randomness to the photo to make it look like it wasn't flipped. So again, I think I'm pretty happy overall with this. Not a lot was needed. I think let's do that same thing with the Nik plugin. And our settings are still in there from last time, and the car actually looks really good. If you needed to change it, again, you just select the eyedropper tool and you just select somewhere where the car's a little more blue. And that's pretty good. So we'll hit OK to apply that. And again, I like what it's doing to the car and the plants, but I'm not liking what it's doing to the sky itself. So let's put a black mask on that. Again, grabbing our brush tool, again painting in white, and we'll just paint over the car and the plants and some of this foreground here just to warm it up a little bit. So we're good there. I'm actually going to make another stamped visible layer. And we're going to grab our burn tool right here. We have our exposure set at 4, midtones, and what we're going to do is we're going to come in here to the car and we're going to paint over the dark lines. And in here, and down here, here on this back body line, here on this top, down here in the back, same thing just along this body line. Along the back of the spoiler. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to grab this dodge tool. Again, bring the exposure down to probably about 4. Again, we're affecting the midtones. And we're going to draw on the other side of where we just painted. And what this is doing is this is bringing out the highlights, and we just darken down the shadows. So if we zoom out a little bit, and we toggle this on and off, you can see what we did. We just helped chisel those lines out a little bit. Helped everything look a little bit more defined. So again, I think we're pretty good there. If we wanted to do that same trick with the gradient tool, we still have our foreground color selected. So we can come in here, same direction as the sun was coming. We can just pull that down. Actually, let's do that on its own layer. Come in here with the direction of the sun. We'll come down here, make a mask again. Grab our brush tool. We're going to hit D and then X to get black as our foreground color. And we're just going to hide this area down here so it's not on the asphalt, and maybe we'll hide a little bit on the car. It just helps add a pop of light, and it also helps differentiate the two sides. And then we'll go ahead and save it. All right, now that we're back over in Lightroom, let's look at what we did. So again, here's our -2, -1, 0, +1, +2. This is our HDR and Lightroom image. And here's our final image. So, I mean, as you can see, I mean, it's a pretty simple retouch. We didn't do a ton. Had all of this distraction been over here, there wasn't really a lot that we needed to do. We could have done the color toning all in Lightroom, had never have left, but it was just as easy to do it in Photoshop, and since we had to remove all that distractions, it was easier to do over there. So hopefully coming along on a shoot and actually seeing the process from taking the photo to bringing it into Lightroom to finish processing it is helpful. Hopefully it helped answer some questions. If you guys have any future suggestions for videos, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, until next time, take care.